And welcome back to Fun with Flags and History. I'm your host Frank, and today we'll be concluding the Costa Rican Civil War miniseries I created on the bicentennial of Costa Rica's independence. Today, let's discuss what had happened where we left off for those that did not watch part 1, which by the way, the link is in the description for those that wish to watch it. But let's move on, shall we?
Yeah, it's rewind time.
During the years of 1940 to 1944, Rafael Calderón Guardia ruled Costa Rica in a similar manner to FDR in terms of his social policy, but had to step aside due to the Costa Rican Constitution's amendment on presidential terms. As a result, law professor and politician Teodoro Bocado stepped up to be the presidential candidate for Calderón's political party, the National Republican Party of Costa Rica. Unlike Calderón, Bocado ruled much more sternly than his predecessor and used the military as a force to keep the Costa Rican populace in line. The People's Vanguard Party of Costa Rica, led by Manuel Mora, is loyal to the Bocado government, partly due to Calderón's creation of the welfare system for the Costa Rican people in 1941, and uses its militia to stamp out any dissent. The fallen arms strike occurs in Cartago, leading the government to intervene further in an attempt to stop the strike. This strike occurs due to fears that Calderón and Bocado would use the government to seize power in an attempt to stop all free elections. As a concession, Bocado allowed the establishment of the Electoral Tribunal of Costa Rica to survey the voting process and to ensure the process is fair. In 1948, Calderón was made the candidate for the National Republican Party, with Otillo Ulate made the opposition candidate for the 1948 elections. The elections happened with Ulate being declared the winner. Calderón is furious at the results, and the two political candidates go to court at the newly established Electoral Tribunal, with Ulate once again being declared the winner, as the tribunal noticed irregularities in the voting process in an attempt to make Calderón the winner of said elections. Jose Figueres, a Costa Rican businessman and outspoken opposition leader in Costa Rica, returns from exile in Mexico in 1944 to begin operations against Bocado. Jose Figueres is a member of the Caribbean Legion, a guerrilla organization that was created to overthrow undemocratic governments in favor of democratic ones, such as Trujillo's Dominican Republic, Batista's Cuba, and the Bocado/Calderón administration in Costa Rica. Figueres sets up shop for his revolutionaries in Costa Rica to begin coordinated attacks against the Bocado administration. The United States follows Figueres with some concern over Figueres' tactics in the country. As a result of this decision, Calderón and his allies within the government annul the votes from the election, and pro-Calderón forces in the army assassinate Dr. Carlos Valverde, likely in an attempt to assassinate Ulate and Jose Figueres as they were earlier.
Yeah, go get him, Dwight. Holy shit, you actually did it. World Star!
Thus, this began the Costa Rican Civil War. Caught up? Good. Let's begin a bit of a prologue to the Civil War, / an explanation. To explain the video properly, it is best to note something extremely important about the Costa Rican Civil War. Unlike most civil wars, like the Russian, Spanish, or American civil wars, Costa Rica's Civil War of 1948 was not based on political ideologies, like communism, fascism, or capitalism, but rather loyalties between factions. This has always been the case with Costa Rican politics, as loyalties were made on a much more personal level than on political alliances, like with the Spanish Republicans that aligned themselves on the idea of anti-fascism. Calderón, for example, being a candidate of the right wing, aligned himself with the Roman Catholic Church and the business elites in Costa Rica. However, his enthusiastic support for the allies of World War II against Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, Imperial Japan, and its proxies, alienated Calderón from the affluent German community, who decided to support the Axis powers. Calderón then decided to create a new political base with Manuel Mora and his communist People's Vanguard Party in Costa Rica, as well as the socially progressive Archbishop of San Jose, Victor Manuel Sanabria, in order to pass legislation guaranteeing labor rights and establishing a welfare state. Mora's communist militias provided important armed support for the government both during the tense years of the Picado administration and during the Civil War itself. On the other hand, the rebel forces led by Figueres were an odd mixture of social democrats, anti-communists, and economic conservatives weary of the idea of a welfare state existing in Costa Rica. This odd grouping of personal alliances can further be emphasized with the nations that supported each group. Anastasio Somoza, for example, a fervent anti-communist, supported the Calderonist regime. On the other hand, Juan José Arevalo, an ardent socialist who was elected in 1945 in Guatemala, supported Figueres alongside the United States in the Costa Rican Civil War. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's actually discuss the Civil War, shall we? With the blood of Dr. Valverde on Calderón's hands, Figueres felt it was time to form his Second Republic of Costa Rica, with President Calderón and Teodoro Picado out of the picture. Figueres, with the support of presidential candidate Otillo Olate, formed the National Liberation Army to fight against the Costa Rican military. The National Liberation Army organized and began at Figueres' farm, La Lucha Sin Fin, in southern Costa Rica. On March 12, 1948, the National Liberation Army seized control of San Isidro de El General and formed an air bridge on the logistical lines between the Los Presales airport in Guatemala and the airport in San Isidro. This was to allow arms for the rebels to come in from Guatemala. In the first trips to San Isidro from Los Presales came 700 light machine guns and rifles to assist Figueres and his National Liberation Army. In San Ramon, Figueres, Catalino Murillo, and Federico Arce are killed while trying to take the town. The next day, March 13, 1948, San Cristobal Sur is claimed in the name of the National Liberation Army. General Miguel Ángel Ramírez y Horacio Julio Ornés, both commanders within the Caribbean Legion, arrive in Costa Rica to assist Figueres in his battle against the Calderonistas. On March 15, 1948, the rebels took the towns of San Marcos de Tarazu and Santa Maria de Dota, with the latter serving as the headquarters for the National Liberation Army during the Costa Rican Civil War. On March 16th, the National Liberation Army had to fight once more for the towns of San Isidro de El General and El Empalme. The National Liberation Army ends up victorious in El Empalme, but the Costa Rican Army takes over San Isidro de El General. However, on April 4th, the military arrests Jorge Tengo Obregón, a civil engineer aligned with the National Liberation Army and the eventual founder of the Costa Rican Electricity Institute, or ICE for short, the government-owned company that handles telecommunications and the electrical power grid in Costa Rica. On April 6th, the Calderonist-led Costa Rican Army took the city of Buenos Aires, Costa Rica. On April 9th, Figueres and his National Liberation Army made his phantom march to overthrow Picado and Calderón once and for all. Oscar Padilla, who was within the National Liberation Army during the march, took the pen name of Federico and documented his experiences. I was with the forces stationed at the headquarters, Santa Maria de Dota. I must say that despite the state of alert in which we spend every minute, every second in Santa Maria de Dota, we breathe the respect and peace that we wish for all of Costa Rica. 65 of our companions were leaving for an unknown direction, on a delicate and momentous mission. Both of us who remained with them, what would later become the famous Caribbean Battalion, knew only one thing. Their mission was to die or win. The Phantom March consisted of well-coordinated guerrilla attacks in the mountains near Cartago, as it was a strategic point to hold. On April 11th, they took the region of Limon over from the Calderonistas, claiming it in the name of Figueres and his troops. Eventually, on April 12th, the guerrillas took over the town of Paraíso. When they arrived into Cartago, however, they were met with heavy opposition from the Costa Rican military. But this opposition later turned into quick defeat, as the Costa Rican military began to run short on supplies to fight Figueres' rebel army. Later that day, the National Liberation Army took the city of Cartago, the second largest city and the historical capital of Costa Rica. During the entire Civil War, the official army under the Picado administration was under the control of Tio Picado's brother, who was unable to organize and coordinate an effective resistance against Figueres' forces. This made the Civil War almost a landslide for Figueres and his guerrillas. With the National Liberation Army only 12 miles away from the capital of San Jose, Picado and his forces began to crack under pressure, as the Caribbean Legion and the National Liberation Army took over the towns of El Tejar, Moín, Tabaca, y San Ignacio de Acosta. On April 16th, a desperate Picado asked his friend Anastasio Somoza to send over troops as a final measure against the National Liberation Army, and on the next day, the Nicaraguan National Guard was brought into Costa Rica to assist Picado and his men. On April 19th, the National Liberation Army and the Costa Rican Armed Forces butt heads at the Battle of San Isidro de El General, which is considered to be the final battle of the Civil War. Seeing that defeat was inevitable, Teodoro Picado contacted the National Liberation Army, notifying Figueres that he was willing to discuss terms of surrender. Mora, however, was hesitant to surrender immediately, as not only did the People's Vanguard Party see this as an opportunity to stay in joint power as a communist party, but knew the strong possibility that a Figueres administration would see the People's Vanguard Party removed from both power and politics itself. Pressure mounting further against Picado and Mora as the United States now focused its eyes on Mora eventually had given up too. On April 19, 1948, Picado and Father Benjamin Nunez, an eminent labor leader within Costa Rica, signed the so-called Pact of the Mexican Embassy, ending the armed uprising. The next day, Teodoro Picado resigned from the presidency of Costa Rica and handed the position to his vice president, Santos León Herrera, as part of the terms of surrender to end the conflict made by José Figueres over the disputed election results. That same day, the Nicaraguan National Guard was called back to Managua and withdrew out of Costa Rica. On April 24th, the National Liberation Army entered San Jose, thus marking an official end to Costa Rica's bloodiest conflict. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like, as it's one way to support the channel. Be sure to comment your thoughts down below if you have any opinions, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns that you wish to send to me. I always read all of your comments, and I always find them interesting. But the best way you can support my channel, aside from sharing, liking, is subscribing. Subscribing is the best way to support my channel, as you help make me grow. So, of course, like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you like this channel, be sure to check us out on Facebook, as I'm posting almost every day on there. And, yeah. So, this is, of course, Frank Perry of Fun with Flags and History, signing off, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.